So let's see what Joshua was able to put together. Again, both these players sitting here at 4-1. You see that Grace is running the Detention Sphere version of this deck. No Planar Cleansings hanging out, as there is a Nightveil Spectre playing that pre-combat to make sure that the Devotion for Thassa will stay intact in case something does disappear here.
Although this is pushing him further and further into Supreme Verdict territory here, so that's the complexity of this dance.
Grace, I believe, does have an Azorius Charm in his hand. Not 100% positive about that. Going to spin a Frostburn Beard. Now Grace goes reaching for the mana. It'll be an Azorius Charm targeting this. But Devotion has still been met. And now Azorius Charm targeting that. Well then, that'll change some things. But now Grace has to deal with still a Bident and Nightveil Spectre.
And very odd to see, or unorthodox at least, to see Cloudfed Raptor in post-board, usually the first card to hit the sideboard for a blue Devotion player.
Hey, you mentioned Verdict. It shows up now off the top of the deck for Grace. Now he fires into the Mutavault. Going to put Pinson back down to 20. Grace knows the top card. Actually, the next two draws, honestly.
Yep.
First one's Thassa. That comes directly into play. Pass the turn back. Devotion currently is at 3. Grace, see if he drew another good one. Going to fire in with Mutavault. Going to put Pinson down to 18. And this is a Mutavault, so pass the turn back. Pinson going to look at the Frostburn where it doesn't even attempt to scry. Says, I know I want that, thank you.
Yeah, that gets him up to the magic number.
Yep. Thassa's on. That's an Earthquake.
Yep.
Should be okay, though. Looks like somebody ran into the old camera rig. Got to be careful around those. But 5 damage just come across, and Bident does allow Thassa to draw a card. Grace will draw a card now. He needs to find something useful.
And if Joshua finds a counterspell here soon, that feels like the nail in the coffin.
Not sure what Grace drew for the turn.
Also, be conscious of that clock. We're under 10 minutes, you know, so.
It's only game 2.
Yeah, if Tannon's able to win, if Joshua rather is able to win this game, Tannon's got to try to win pretty fast.
Let's see what this card is here. 4, 5. Okay. Archangel's pretty good. It's not great, merely good right now. Just because Thassa's in play.
Still gives him a shot. I mean, it's no Supreme Verdict, it's no Sphinx of Revelation, but it's one of the better draws.
The draw was a Mutavault there for Pinson. Gonna put that into play, of course. It's trying to make some things unblockable. You and you. Attack here. Can attack for the full amount if he wants. Looks like it's gonna be 6. Let's make it 9. Grace is gonna go down to 1. And Pinson gets appealed 2. Oof.
Yep. So what this essentially does, it means that even if Tannon connects, Thassa's still lethal, and Tannon probably has no way to stop Thassa from attacking next turn.
Yeah, I think maybe, you know, in that situation, assuming that Grace does have access to a card like Deicide in his deck, Deicide may be the best draw there, because you're able to Deicide Thassa, which makes it so that Frostburn and company are actually able to be blocked.
Well, it appears there is no copies of Deicide in the 75.
Yeah.
There's a Needle, which is unlikely to have been brought in against Blue Devotion,
Yep.
so I like that play from Joshua. It means that, you know, Tannon probably has to find a sweeper next turn to be able to continue to play, and at that point, he loses his Archangel as well.
Well, both players are going to get the sideboarding here. Again, as you mentioned, we're only 10 minutes. By the time we start this game, we're probably going to be underneath 7 minutes. We'll see. Not a lot of time to go back to the drawing board here for either player, but you see Grace is already shuffling up pretty quickly. He's going to try to steal this one. And you saw on his sideboard, we saw at least one Archangel. How many does he have over there?
He has 3 in the sideboard along with 3 copies of Nyx's Fleece Ram. He has a Last Breath, a Celestial Flare, a Needle, a Jace Memory Adept, an Aetherling, 2 Negates, and 2 Fated Retribution. So I think the 6 creatures, at least the Archangels, are for sure coming in. I think that Nyx's Fleece Ram is overall good in the matchup, though it does make your Supreme Verdicts a little more awkward. Last Breath is solid. Celestial Flare does some good work, so the extra removal spells, the Archangels, and maybe the Rams.
Other side of things, again, there's a lot of counter spells over here. 2 Dissolve, 2 Negate, 4 Gainsay. That's 8 cards. You add those 2 Jace Architect Thoughts and a Jace Memory Adept. That's 11. There's a Polymorphosis Jest, excuse me, a Cyclonic Rift, and then 2 copies of Domestication. Those are the other 4 cards to fill out the sideboard there for Joshua. But I expect to see the same configuration, basically exactly what Justin Upthal and we have seen other players incorporate in this matchup, which is you're playing a very counter sliver and fish-esque strategy against blue-white. The problem here is that to be able to actually kind of facilitate that strategy, it takes time. You don't win games very quickly, and time is not something that's on either player's side right now.
Although, of course, Joshua is still better suited in this world than Tannon.
Both players gonna take a look at 7 cards here. See who can get it done. Grace is gonna keep, as will Pinson. Grace with a hollowed fountain. Pinson, he has a Judge's Familiar. Gets off to a pretty nice start here. Grace will draw a card.
Judge's Familiar seems, in an odd way, really important to the way these matchups play out post-board.
Yeah.
Just getting something on the board when you're trying to use Biden and Thassa and all that kind of stuff. Makes certain cards more awkward to play with. Does a lot of work.
And for one we go with the bird. Grace is going to go down to 19. You saw Pinson's second land was a Mutavault, not an island. He does have an island in his hand, but he can still cast counter magic with this mana, but no Frostborn or Tidebinder Mage here, as Grace is just going to play an island and pass the turn back.
So now Joshua needs to kind of figure out how he wants to do this dance of applying enough pressure but keeping enough shields up as well.
There's your attack for 1. Grace is staring in the last breath right now, opting not to cast it just yet. So he'll go down to 18. Gets to try to use his Life Total as a resource here. There's another Judge's Familiar.
And Joshua willing to do this, risking the Detention Sphere because he has Negate in his hand. So he's setting up a really nice curve with Biden as well. If Tannon just plays Detention Sphere this turn, Josh may be able to negate it, untap, play Biden, draw 2 cards, and put Tannon into a bunch of trouble.
Yep, and that's what I think is going to happen here in just a moment. There's a D-Sphere. There's Negate. That does not resolve. And now things get really ugly, assuming that Joshua does have Biden in the 4th land. And the 4th land was just drawn. Looks like he already had it, though. Yeah, Nykthos is going to come in. It looks like it's a Biden now, too. Oh, man. This is ugly, ugly, ugly. In for 2. The damage doesn't really matter. It's the cards that matter.
And now the tempo is really swung here. Even if Tannon untaps and has Supreme Verdict, Joshua can animate Mutavault, draw another card, put something else into play, hold up counterspell mana. The whole tempo of the game is set off.
Yep. And there's a Jace. Now that's pretty good.
Yes. Stops a lot of what's going on right now.
That is one of the more important cards that Grace could find. So Jace ticking up, going to give you that Cumberstone effect, which means those Judge's Familiars can't draw cards anymore. And actually, if Pinson wants to continue to deal damage and draw cards, it's got to be via Mutavault. Mutavault will go active. There will be attacks. I do like that Pinson says, hey, you got to make sure you remember your Jace triggers. It's smart. So, just 1.
Also, we could have Domestication. You want to give him the thing tapped.
That's true.
It's narrow, but not impossible.
D-Sphere the draw. Another Jace in hand for Grace here as well, but that first Jace is very, very important. You're going to take up to 6. Grace with 3 mana. Going to try a Detention Sphere again. The question, of course, is what would Grace target with this? I think it would be the Biden.
Yeah, it seems like the most dangerous card here.
Looks like we're going to have a counter spell here, and it will be a gainsay. It's good sequencing there by Pinson, too. He actually activated Nykthos to give himself 4 mana to be able to counter twice if he needs to.
Or pay for a Syncopate.
Yeah,
yeah, that's really good sequencing.
So Pinson's going to untap. Again, 2 Judge's Familiars, Mutavault in the row. Nykthos down there as well. Biden in play. Draws a card. It's a copy of Nightveil Spectre. That's a second Mutavault. That's big.
Really important. And the 1 Nykthos is a big deal too, because Josh is going to be able to generate a lot of mana to be able to add to his board and hold up counter spells.
Looks like we might be generating some mana here with Nykthos. There's Nightveil Spectre. 1 mana left. He's going to activate Mutavault. Looks like it's red zone time. There's an Azorius Charm to try to target that. Will he use a counter spell? He will. The question is it better to use that or Judge's Familiar?
Oh, I think that should have been a Judge's Familiar.
I think that's a Familiar. I think you're so happy to get an actual counter spell out of your opponent's hand in this situation.
Now Tannon can do something like untap and cast Elspeth, which you have no protection for.
Even Verdict is pretty good now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose Verdict would have always been good, but it feels just better now since Pinson did deploy another threat. But given the circumstances and the situation that we're in, which is tick-tock goes the clock, maybe he has to deploy Night Veil Spectre because he needs to try to win the game.
I don't mind casting the Night Veil Spectre there, but I think you got to cash in a Judge's Familiar. It's doing nothing in the face of this Jace, and negate's really valuable.
Jace going to tick up. 2 mana. Last Breath. Going to target this Night Veil Spectre. Get that off the table. Pinson will gain some life. And we're going to run into a familiar situation here, Patrick, which is Grace is not going to be able to win. The question is, can Pinson?
Going to be tough. I mean, Tannon's at 14, but Joshua is looking at a number of cards here. The big issue is he's got to eventually start diversifying his assets a little bit, start going after this Jace because he can't allow it to go ultimate.
Some mana. Fire up these Mutavolts. It looks like it may be red zone time, and it is. Force trigger from Jace. Damage is going to come across. It looks like. Here's a flare. That's pretty good.
And that's a spot where Joshua needed to send in the Judge's Familiars as well.
We saw him do it on the first turn with Jace.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him do it on any of the other turns, just the first one. Cyclonic Rift the draw.
Couple hiccups here from Joshua, giving Tannon some breathing space to continue to play this game.
Yeah.
He looked like he was out of it.
Pinson looks like he's going to deploy another threat on the table. Maybe. A little unsure of himself. Situation like this, got to be sure, though. Don't have time for the fidgety. Don't have a lot of time to play. There's a Raptor. Going to pass the turn back. It looks like there's a Rift on Jace. And it looks like Pinson is going to be turn 0, so Grace is going to be turns 1, 3, and 5. And I actually think that's really important with the fidgeting that took place there. Because Grace gets 1, 3, and 5, and Pinson only gets 2 more turns to play now, Pinson may not have enough time to win.
And it looks like it would be close.
Had he taken that turn a little bit faster, it may be different. There is Jace. You do see the die there for the first turn. Jace is going to tick up. Grace is going to play a Mutable before passing the turn back. Pinson's going to draw. It's an island. He will play that island. It's time to fire at Mutavault again. And you can see where Clothman Raptor isn't really at its best in this matchup.
Yeah, it just forces your hand to play further into Supreme Verdict.
There's an attack. Yeah, that's a beating, of course. You know, with the Jace trigger Mutavault to 1-2, that Mutavault that Grace has is a 2-2, so he just gets to eat that one. Now here's a Frostmourne that gets to evolve the Cloudfin Raptor. And if Grace were to find a card like Supreme Verdict, run away with this game. I think that's actually just what he drew.
Yeah, I think he's a huge.
He's a huge favorite now. I'm pretty sure Pinson's hand is 2 lands.
Yep.
And he's got a Biden in play, and he has no Mutavaults in the row. This is turn 3. Yeah, now this is safe to tick down. 2 and 3. Verdict, Azorius Charm, and a Temple of Enlightenment are the cards that are revealed from Jace. Pinson's going to split these like that. So Verdict and Temple are going to go to the grip. Azorius Charm is going to go to the bottom. And now Mutavault's going to come in for 1 because Tannon knows that it's very safe to do so. There's Temple. That'll take a look. That card's going to stay on top, pass the turn back. Pinson. He's going to untap and take a draw here. Again, he's got 2 lands in his hand. Frostburn Weird was the draw. That's not going to do very much. So he will cast that. Just pass the turn back over to Grace. Again, Pinson, you can't see the Biden of Thassa that's off the screen, but it is actually in play. So his devotion right now is 4. And every creature he draws is relatively good. But it's going to be turn 5 here. And now we're going to have, of course, your classic conversation of, look, I think I would win. I have a revelation in my hand. You don't really have very much, blah, blah, blah. We'll see if there's going to be a draw or not at this point. Of course, when we do know, as both players do shake hands, we'll let you guys know. But we're going to bring it back.